if I hit this again, we are recording. Okay, here we go. Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to the Evolution Daily Podcast. This is Alpha Chad, Aaron's assistant, bringing you a very special podcast episode. This is the 50th episode of the Evolution Daily Podcast. You've heard that right. Evolution Daily has now been podcasting for 50 episodes. And because it's the 50th episode, we're going to do a little special Alpha Chad solo, right? We're going to talk about what's on Alpha Chad's brain today. We're going to dive into the types of things that I think about, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy this, right? So in the midst of all this, chaos that's going on in the world, Aaron and I are currently on our way out of the place we currently live in, right? We're moving to the fifth dimension. We're fighting aliens and space demons. We're just going insane. We got so many new projects, so many new products, ideas, cool things that we're doing in the future, things we can't talk about yet, things we might talk about soon, right? Just a lot of great plans. And, amidst all this nutsness, just so much creativity and fun. And we've really managed to just make the most of our situation and, focus on what matters, right? Focus on building something positive instead of focusing on the negative that, is in front of everyone, right? So, what's been going on with me lately is in the midst of all this, I've been kind of just focusing on what I do best, right? Which is, for me, it's always been inner self-dialogue. I think there's an actual scientific term for it, but I call it, self-dialogue. It's this idea that you're working through, different resistances that you have in your brain and your body, right? So what's resistance? Resistance is, a good example of resistance would be what I call like the cookie gym metaphor, right? We have multiple parts inside of our bodies, right? At any given point in the day, we don't just have one like perspective inside of us. We're actually many different personalities all happening at once, and sometimes those different parts of us can't even agree, right? So one part of you might want to go to the gym and be like, you know what, I really want to work on my health today. I really got to get in shape, and, there's all these future things I want for myself that involve going to the gym today. And then another part of you just wants to fucking sit back and eat a cookie, right? And you're like, well, why can't I succeed? Why do I have like these problems where, it just feels like every day something internal will come out and prevent the good stuff from happening? I'll tell you what's happening. What's happening is you have your conscious brain and your subconscious brain. And the reason you don't know what's happening, what's acting as the resistance or the oppositional force within inside you is because you're actually not conscious of that oppositional force. You're only conscious of the, maybe one side of that perspective. So for those of you who maybe it's tough to go to the gym or it's tough to do certain things, right? This all comes from you having internal resistance inside your subconscious brain that's holding you back. So what can someone do about this, right? Well, what I do, and I do this all the time, this is a process that I just use on the daily, and this is just something that I've always loved doing. It's something that I actually enjoy doing. And I've just seen it in so many different self-help books, worded different ways, but the way I do it is pretty unique. It's, a method that I kind of like to call going out into a field and just having a conversation with these two parts of you, right? So you can think of it like, I like to think of it like a country, okay? So let's say you're like the president of a country, and then you have two sides, right? You have one part of you that's like, we want to go to the gym. We need to be healthy. And then you have another side of you that's like, I want to chill. I want to eat cookies. And, you might say, well, if you use logic, the logical best answer would be to go to the gym because that's for your health, and eating cookies is probably going to deteriorate your health over time. Therefore, we should just go to, the gym. And for most people, maybe that works. But for some people, that doesn't, right? Sometimes you have to dive even deeper. Sometimes you have to have conversations about these types of things. And this can be used for anything, not just, I like to use internal self-dialogue for just about everything, right? I like to think that you can personify anything. You could literally have a conversation between a pencil and a wall, right? Anything could talk to anything, and that's kind of the the imaginary game that you're playing when you start having these internal parts of you, duke it out with each other and propose arguments and sort of, it's almost like a court case or something where the judge is just kind of observing, and then these two parts are kind of out there beefing, right? And the solution is always to find a solution that that heals both both sides can agree to, right? I think something that we do in politics today that we do wrongly is we're always just trying to be right, and we're trying to eliminate the other perspective because it's so much easier to survive without this like opposing thing if you could just kill it. If you could just kill the opposing perspective and end it, send it to prison, or, just prove to the rest of the world why it's wrong completely and utterly, you would never have to work another day in your life. And that's why we always feel like sort of, that's why different political parties are at each other's throats, right? Is because they're not trying to find a solution. They want to kill the other side. And we are no longer in an age where we're going to be able to do that, right? What you're going to need to do as the moderator of your body and the subconscious and conscious parts of your brain, you're going to have parts of you that want to do one thing and want to do another. And sometimes, as a man, you got to sit down and be like, you know what? I'm going to work this out. I'm going to figure out what's going on with both parts of me, right? And you always can. And for me personally, it's something I love to do. I just love exploring my mind and my brain and figuring out what these different sides to me. I've never learned more than I have from working out my resistance. So, that's just been something that's on my mind lately is thinking about resistance. I might come back to that. You can apply resistance to all kinds of things. You could even apply it to a relationship, right? If you're in a relationship with a girl, you and her have an argument, you can kind of look at it like, oh, look, I'm one of the two things on the side of like this, little argument where we're supposed to be finding a middle ground here, right? And you have many different options, right? You can choose to try to eliminate, your girlfriend's point of view, or you can, try to find a middle ground, right? And it's always a choice. But for me, I always like to figure out my internal resistance, right? Because I've been somebody who's had a lot of trouble figuring out how to accomplish the things that I wanted to in life. Now, how this relates to getting things and getting your dreams and desires is that So it all started when I was watching a Teal Swan video. That should be a big surprise for anybody who knows me. But I was watching a Teal Swan video called "Why Can't I Win?" She's got this great video, "Why Can't I Win?" And what she says is like people who win have less resistance inside of them, oppositional force, than people who, don't win, right? If you look at two athletes and they're competing at a high level, and one of those athletes is just focused on the game. And then another athlete, he's thinking about like, shit, if I lose, this is going to suck. And he keeps thinking about like, his focus isn't on the game. His focus is on playing not to lose. It's said that athlete that has less resistance is just going to win, right? The athlete who's focusing on just the game has less resistance to winning than the guy who, he seems like he's got some internal crap going on, right? And this is an important subject for guys in today's age who, are confused about why they can't get certain results, in game or otherwise. And, for me, the number one secret has always been internal dialogue. And I'm a nerd. I'll sit down with paper and notepads, and I'll go out into the field, and I'll talk out loud. I'll come back inside, and I'll work more on that in a notebook. I will fill notebooks up on this stuff, and I love it. I can't speak for everyone. I don't think everyone should love it, but it's something that I'm sort of addicted to, and it's caused and allowed me to be somebody who has a lot of like internal alignment. And the more internally aligned I become, the better my life gets. The more weird, insane opportunities show up in my life. The more crazy, just nuts, cool adventures happen in my life. And my life, ever since I really started on that inner self dialogue, has just drastically changed, and then it's gotten better and better and better. Now I work for Evolution Daily, and we're talking to chicks, and we're filming vids, and I'm learning all this great stuff, and we're going on the up and up. It's nuts. So it's really cool. But yeah, that's resistance is something that is a big part of my life, and I spend a lot of time thinking about how I'm going to align the different parts of me that are out of alignment, and I try to educate other people about it too, just because it's something I'm really interested in. Other things I've been kind of working on. I've been working on a rap album. That's been kind of fun. I started a rap album 10 years ago when I was a kid. I had this idea for a rap album, and I kind of was lying to my friends about the progress of that album. I was sort of telling my friends, like, every month, like, they were like, when's this album coming out? When's it coming out? And I'm like, oh, did another song. But, I was a young kid, and I couldn't, I actually, like, I thought it was easy. Like, I thought it would be simple and easy to make a rap album, but I never had done anything with music before. I was just good at a lot of other things, so I figured, why wouldn't I be good at this? And it turned out that I kind of got kicked in the face a little bit by this album, right? It kind of kicked my ass. After about a year, I quit. I gave up, and I said, you know what? I can't do that. That is too far out of reach for me, and I gave up on that album. And then, I got into self-development. I got into game. I got into a lot of different areas of my life. My life started improving. I started to find my own levels of empowerment. And, as I did that, I thought about all the different things that I can accomplish, all the things I want to accomplish in life. And for some reason, that rap album stuck with me. I was like, damn, that's just a smudge on my, not even a smudge. It's not that I wanted to complete it because I felt angry. I loved the idea, and the only reason I quit was because I loved the idea, but I felt like I couldn't do it. And after spending many years developing myself, I kind of felt capable enough to start going after it again. And now, in the midst of Aaron and I moving, I'm also just kind of in the heat of this album. I literally just finished a song today, and that's not a lie, so that's awesome. And my expected process is now to try and attempt to make a song every 2 weeks, right? So that's really fun. That's been something that I've been focusing on. It's been really cool. I've also just been eating a lot healthier, something that was actually a big problem for me. I had this crazy... hang on one second, guys. I'm just going to take a little sip of water here, but I'll be right here in 3 seconds. Yeah, sorry about that. So something else that's been happening with me is that I've been eating really healthy, but Aaron and I have this joke, right? We have this joke. We talk about how whenever I eat junk food, sometimes I'll just, sometimes I just want to chill. Sometimes I just want to fuck around, and I'll eat something I know I really shouldn't. If I eat something like that, like just before bed, this has always been the case pretty much ever since I started working at Evolution Daily, is that if I eat bad food just before bed, I will have crazy, raging nightmares. Just like violent nightmares. To the point where Aaron and I will joke about this as like some kind of like weird thing that only happens to me. It might be a weird thing that only happens. I'm actually certain that this is something that only happens to me. But I was working hard this whole week, and I made some progress on my album that was really cool. And I finally was like, you know what? I deserve I'm gonna celebrate. I'm gonna go get some chips, some dip. I'm gonna watch my favorite show, Community, and I'm just gonna sit down, eat some chips, and watch Community before bed. And so I go to sleep, and I don't know how many of you are aware of sleep paralysis, but I actually have a lot of sleep paralysis sometimes. It happens more often if I if I eat bad food, or if I stay up a little late. Sleep paralysis, for those of you who don't know, is like you kind of wake up, but you wake up in your room, but like you don't realize it's still a dream. And then like for a lot of people, what happens to them is they see like weird like aliens and shit, or like demons and shit. And like honestly, like I'm one of those people. Like this particular night, it was the worst sleep paralysis nightmare I've ever had. I went to sleep, and so I go to bed, and then I feel really uncomfortable, and then there's like this black like phantom thing like hovering over my bed, and it picks me up. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, and I'm getting thrown all around my room by like these giant phantoms and shit. And it was fucking crazy and violent. And and then I wake up I know I'm in my room, but like I just woke up, so like in that room like a second ago in the dream. So I was like, is this a dream? Right? Like I get up and I turn on the light. I'm like looking around. I'm like, okay, like I'm not okay, And then I went back to bed and I was fine. Next morning I'm talking to one of our roommates about this, and like he was like, holy shit, and like it was only in that moment when you said that I was like, oh, that's weird. Like that's weird, right? And so it took all of that for me to realize that was strange. And then I said, why is that happening? Oh, that's because I'm not eating right, right? I need to keep doing what I've been doing, which is eat right, right? Not even like taking a break off of the healthy food that I've been eating. I've been eating really, really good lately, and it's been awesome. There's something to that where, the food that you're currently eating in your life really equates to kind of just the level of growth that you have in your life. And I've just been growing rapidly these past few months, and I've also just been eating like crazy healthy. Like I'm eating asparagus. I never would have ate fucking asparagus like 3 months ago. Are you kidding me? I don't know what happened, but now I'm super duper duper healthy. Speaking of dreams, I have another mastermind that I do with my close friends from home back in New Jersey. I have a weekly little gathering that I kind of ragtag crew that I put together, my own personal friends from back home. Once a week, we talk about goals and things like that. And my one friend was talking about dreams. He's a really logical person. He's like this sort of logical guy. And he's like, I have like all these weird dreams, and I just don't know what they mean. He's like, I have no idea what these dreams mean. I'm having like stupid dreams, like the trees have teeth, and then this thing was talking to me, and like. And I'm not scared. I don't feel anything. I feel indifferent, but I just don't know like what these mean. And I think you have to make your own meaning out of these things, right? Like I made my dream mean that I was not eating right, and so no one can tell you what your dreams mean. So make them mean something positive for your life, right? That's the message there. But, so the rap album's going good, eating healthy. I didn't get attacked by demons today, so that's cool. And, we're just kind of out here on this podcast. I think what I want to talk about now is something that I never really get to bring up in the podcast, but I think is really good for guys that are growing, guys that are trying to get better with women, is something I'm actually really good at, which is talking about masculine traits. So by now you've probably heard of masculine energy and feminine energy. But something that is a little bit less understood is what traits are masculine traits and what traits are feminine traits. And, when I talk about these and I list these, they'll just be kind of off the top of my head, so I might not even remember them all. But like just some really good ones. A masculine trait that you might not think is a masculine trait is something like freedom, right? Obviously, another masculine trait might be something like direction, right? Responsibility, right? These different attributes are masculine attributes, and I think that in today's society, it's a little confusing about what it really means to be a man. And so I have a little bit of input on that I'd like to share with you guys. I had one of our old boot camp students call me up randomly, and he was talking to me about a pretty serious situation. He wanted me to keep it private, but he was asking me about a serious life choice, like something where, if I decided for him what life choice to make, either way it would have kind of affected his life like pretty, harshly. And, I kind of said to him like, look, man, like, it's cool that you value my opinion, but, it wasn't that he just valued my opinion. It was that he really did want like another like man to decide for him, right? And on the boot camp, he had also been very, I understand that like when you're on a boot camp, a program, you're the student, and we're teaching guys, but like, beyond that is like just being a man where you're a student your whole life and never the teacher, being somebody who never actually just looks around and realizes, like, hey, not everybody has it all figured out. Like, sometimes I just decide what things mean, you know? Like the dreams, right? You decide what they mean. So, one of the first masculine traits that I want to talk about is just, you know, having like your own like ability to decide, right? You just get to decide what certain things mean. And, you know, logic starts to be this sort of individual thing rather than an absolute fact, right? Logic is, you know, sometimes like whatever you believe and whatever that belief serves, like whoever that serves, that's what's true, right? Take flat earthers, right? I think flat earthers are dumb, right? These guys, like, they have no reason to believe that the earth is flat. We have already proven this. It's like having an argument with someone about something that you've already settled with them. It's like, didn't we talk about this yesterday? Why are we arguing about this again? Right? That's what like flat earthers are, right? But you know, the reason why our society, with all our advancements and everything, still can't convince flat earthers that the earth is, you know, round, despite evidence, is that you do get to believe whatever serves you, right? And it's a very individual process. Not everyone's going to be able to tell you what to believe, right? Only you can go inside yourself and, you know, tell yourself what to believe. Now, you know, these people might be crazy and, you know, hurting themselves and endangering themselves by, you know, being that dumb potentially. But regardless, it's a choice, and it is actually empowering, right? It's empowering to, you know, to have your own choices about what to believe, right? Even if they're wrong, for some people, that's a lot of a lot more empowerment than they would have if they had to believe things that were already established for them, right? So, and you know, this goes back to the whole perspective thing on resistance, where every perspective is valuable. Every perspective has something to input, you know. So when you're dealing with your inner resistance, there, you have, you know, just more reason to really listen to different, you know, opposing sides rather than just discount them 100%. What's another masculine trait? Clarity. I think that guys don't have enough clarity on things. I don't think they know how things work. You know, they kind of, you know, they shirk the details. Clarity is like, how will I explain clarity? It's like a lot of guys is lack like an understanding about how the world works. Like they're not looking at, you know, we get a lot of like great guys on boot camps and stuff. We get a lot of awesome guys, but sometimes, you know, it just seems like the questions that they're asking are structured in a way where it just suggests like you don't have like a priority, you know, of how things work. You know, you need to explore how you feel about things before you move forward. You got to like look into that. That's a masculine trait, right? No one's going to come and give you clarity, right? You have to have that curiosity, that desire to explore, and maybe even beyond desire, you know, a reason to move forward, right? Something to fight for, things that you think in the world are awesome that you want to go after. And if you go after those things, that's going to make your life better. And so that's why you decide to learn about the world, is because you're curious. You have things you want to accomplish. You have clarity because you know, you're on the journey. You want to learn, right? Another masculine trait, you know, that I like to talk about is freedom, right? Freedom is huge, man. There's so many guys that don't feel free. Right, picture a wild stallion, right? That's the type of man women desire, right? A wild stallion, right? Look at yourself, right? Look in the mirror. Do you feel like a wild stallion, or do you feel like a caged, you know, some kind of caged horse? You know, God, I mean, just before I came to Evolution Daily, I quit my job, right? It was a choice. It was a harsh choice, right? I had to kind of go against my own inner victimhood and, you know, other shit like that. You know, what's the opposite of victimhood? Responsibility, right? That's a masculine trait, right? Coming to power, you know, coming into your own power, right? It takes the form sometimes of having to swallow a harsh pill, right? It takes the form of you know, of just, you know, it's focus, right? It's a focus. It's like, you know, there's guys that complain about the things that they don't have, or why they can't do things, right? They complain like, oh, I can't go, you know, out and talk to chicks. I like, you know, the game doesn't work, whatever the hell. It's a choice. It's a focus, right? And so choice, focus, responsibility, freedom, these are all masculine traits, right? Direction. Guys lack direction in life, man. I can go on and on about that. You have to think like a computer sometimes. It's like that's how I like to look at it. Like, if you don't have direction, direction comes from like knowing what the fuck is going on, right? Think about like a computer and how a computer might think, right? It's like a computer can only do like one task at a time, but it does like 1,000 tasks like one at a time, but like super fast, right? It's like, but it has all these priorities. It's like, well, what's the most important thing? Okay, this. So we go this way. Okay, now what's the second most important thing? This, right? So you could look at that in your own life. You could be like, well, what's the most important thing? Maybe for some people it's having fun. Maybe for some others it's survival. Whatever it is, you're like, okay, priority number 1, this. Priority number 2, this. Consciously think about your priorities in order to have direction, right? High-level people are only high-level because they have high-level direction. And without it, you're lost, right? Ask yourself, what did I come to this life to do? I'll tell you mine. It's to have fucking fun. I believe I will die, and go away for a very long time afterwards. So in the meantime, I want to bang girls. I want to get super sick at Super Smash Brothers Melee. I'm gonna take my friends out to a private island. We're all gonna wear pirate hats and like look for treasure. I'm doing that. I'm gonna rap. I'm gonna skate. I'm gonna learn these fucking weight flips that I'm trying to learn. I don't know how many of you guys out there are skateboarders, but weight flips are hard, man. It's like you ollie in the air and then you gotta like flip the board on the way back down. They're crazy, right? But they're cool, and that's why I want to do them, right? I want to do cool shit because I can, right? You choose to be alive, right? So I know I sound like I'm going all over the place here, but it's just because I am passionate about direction. Like, direction is something that I've always had, and sometimes I just meet students that don't have direction, and it's just like, look, man, like, just decide for yourself, like, what is important, right? Stop letting other things decide for you, right? Maybe our whole lives, because we're kids or whatever, we've had other people decide stuff for us, and it's like, it's time for you to, create your own direction, right? Because the way I like to look at it is life is still unwritten, right? You know what I mean by that? Like, life is still unwritten, like you're writing life, right? Like, because it didn't happen yet, you're writing what life is going to be. Therefore, you might be like, well, what's the most logical thing, right? It doesn't matter. It hasn't happened yet, right? Like, it hasn't even happened. You're writing it, right? So just choose cool things that you want to do in life. Brainstorm, plot. Aaron and I do something that we like to call plotting, right? We'll sit around and we'll literally like scheme and plot like we're in a fucking circle of evil. We'll literally scheme and plot like new ideas for products, projects, things that we could do, programs, like, all that stuff. We plan all these cool ideas because, if you don't do that, what happens is you wake up as a man and you're in fear, right? If you want to eliminate fear from your life, the best way to do it is to have things that you love. A lot of people think that the opposite of love is hate, but the opposite of love is actually fear, right? You're afraid of all these different things in life, but you're not afraid when you have direction. You're not afraid when you have things that are so cool, things that are so utterly awesome that you want to do, that now you are going to go approach that chick. You are going to go talk to your boss about getting a raise. You are going to go, fight for something that you care about because you woke up that day and you decided to brainstorm about things you cared about rather than, maybe watch the news and brainstorm about things you fear. Right? So brainstorm things you love, right? Sit around and plot. Aaron and I do it all the time, and we're not special. We just sit around putting our focus into finding cool new ideas for 30 minutes. And, is it any surprise that now, we're high on life in the 5th dimension during a global zombie apocalypse? I just got kicked out of Kroger. How dumb can this world be? I just got kicked out of Kroger for not wearing a mask, right? That's what's going on in the world right now. But none of that matters, right? Because you're going to take your life to the next level, So that's what you're going to do, right? Because that's what men should do, right? Men should be taking their lives to the next level. They should always be pushing. And, these are just my personal beliefs about what a man should do. Obviously, maybe this doesn't apply to every guy, but, like, for me personally, I think that a man should always be pushing, having direction, having something to say, having things that, he's here to do and accomplish. And, obviously making time for things that don't matter as much or things that appear to be less important. It's not all about accomplishing things. Sometimes it's just about the journey there, right? Having a good time with your friends, creating good memories. One day you're just not gonna be here, and it's not going to be negative. It's not going to be positive. It's just going to be that you're just not here anymore, and you have to look inside yourself and be like, before I go, is there any sort of music inside of me that I want to put out before it's too late? And by music, I don't necessarily mean actual music, but is there anything you want to do before you die? Is there something that you want to put out there into the world before it? If you died, you could even simulate this. You could do an exercise where you literally just imagine you died. I've done this shit. It's crazy. Like, you just imagine you died. Right? Close your eyes, imagine you died. Right? You're looking at your funeral now. Right? Who's there? Who's at that funeral? Right? Is it your family there, or your friends there? They're looking at your casket. They're saying their goodbyes. How are they remembering you? Right? How are you remembered? And cue into how you feel in your gut. How does your gut feel? Do you feel like you got everything that you wanted to do out of this, or does it feel unfinished? And, as a man, I think it's important sometimes to look at life and be like, hey, if I have things that are unfinished, it might be a good idea to ask myself, like, how much time I got left? How old are you? How old are you? What's the expected, lifespan of people in your country, people of your type, right? How long are you going to live, bro? How long is it going to feel good, right? How long are you going to, how old are you going to get until you start getting sore, right? Based on your behaviors and what you do and how you treat your body, right? You have to have cool, awesome things that you're thinking about doing and things that you want to accomplish. And then you're going to use those things to, reverse engineer a life for yourself, right? You do that by saying, hey, like, okay, so I have this many years left, right? This is how much time I have left. Okay, and what are all the things I want to accomplish? And they could be big things and little things. You can have all your big goals, but then you can also have, I also want to have, like, a lot of, like, cool, like, unplanned experiences, things that, like, I can't just write down. Like, I want to go, like, travel and, like, meet some cool people and, like, go on an adventure and shit, right? And it's like, all right, well, how can you set that up, right? Are you going to go on a trip? Are you going to set that up, right? So just looking at all the things you want in your life that you think are awesome, and honestly, throwing away all the things on your list the second that they become uninspiring, right? The things that you want on your life list should always be things that inspire you, things that you think are cool. And honestly, I don't truly believe that, we came here to do a specific thing. I believe that we would infinitely, if we accomplish everything we want, we would infinitely just get, like, more and more ideas for cool things to do, right? I think that our desires are kind of limitless in that way, where we're just like, all right, like, after I do this, I would probably want to do this. After this, I'd probably want to do this, right? But, as a man, you just ask yourself, like, what are the things that matter to me that make, life worth living for me? I had some periods where I was waking up every day, I think it was a year ago maybe or something, where, or not a year ago, I'm sorry, maybe 2 years ago, I was feeling really crappy every day. And it just felt like no matter what, I just, like, I didn't want to wake up. Like, I would stay up really, really late, and I just did not want to wake up. And what I realize now is that where that comes from is you just have, like, an overall sense of apathy. You just kind of feel like you don't feel inspired to do anything, right? And now what I realize is what I would tell my younger self to go do is to start stacking on top of each other different things that you think are awesome, right? Big things, little things. You can even create a list. Go write down a list of all these things that you feel, that you're excited, looking forward towards, right? And if you don't have any, then, you do the process that Aaron and I do, which is to brainstorm, which is to plot, right? You sit around and you just put your focus into that thing, right? And it doesn't matter whether or not you even come up with anything the first time. If you think about writers, writers always experience writer's block, but good writers know how to push through writer's block, right? What are writers doing when they're sitting there trying to force something out that doesn't feel like it's coming out, right? They're just putting their focus towards what they want, because, what else are they going to do? Are they going to cry about it, right? If you sit there and you focus on the things you want long enough, you will get new ideas, you will get passion ideas, you'll get inspiring ideas, and then next thing you know, you'll feel your legs moving underneath you without you having to put so much effort into making them move, right? And this all comes back full circle to the stuff I was talking about in the beginning of this about resistance, where a lot of times getting yourself out of your bed is hard for a lot of guys. Even just getting out of bed can be hard for certain people. They're like, I don't want to do the day. Everything that I have to do today is something that somebody else put on me, and something that I don't want to do, and it's going to be work, and it's going to be tough, and it's like I don't feel happy, and I don't see where this is leading. And it's like, yeah, well, that, to me, what that sounds like is you need to sit down and have a long talk with yourself. For me, with a notebook, I'd be doing it. But, really just prioritizing and thinking about what really matters to you, right? If you ever wake up like that and you're like, I just don't like where I am, I don't like what I am, that is the greatest catalyst for change. Like, that's incredible. That's actually good news, right? Because not realizing what you don't want is the first step to getting what you do want, right? So that is that's what I like to do. But yeah, guys, I mean, that's just something that I think about a lot, is just moving forward like that. Just a lot of I've had a crazy life, guys. I started self-development when I was 16, and I ate it up for years, man. Am I 30 now? Yeah, I'm 30 now. Like, half my life has been in self-development, and I never forced anything. Like, I always enjoyed it. I always just enjoyed, like, writing about these things, thinking about things, exploring my brain. My personal experience has been being extremely, for lack of a better term, broken, right? Being someone where I felt broken, like completely broken. And, again, if I was to talk to my younger self, I think I'd word it a little bit differently. I'd say, like, broken's not necessarily the right word, but like, because now what I do is I do something a little bit different, right? I don't try to help myself and fix myself, right? I don't try to fix myself anymore, and I also don't try to fix other people. I just have started to allow myself to be what I am, but then learn how to guide the ship slowly, in the realistic ways that I can guide the ship, right? So a good example of this is, maybe you just don't like that you are unsuccessful, right? A lot of times that's just literal resistance, right? So literally, unconsciously, there's a part of you that just hates not being successful. And the problem is, any actions you take are actually kind of acting against you, because there's these forces where you're like, well, I just don't want to be unsuccessful. I hate it. I hate it so much. And instead of working on those emotions, working on how you feel about that, you're just trying to, bulldoze not being, the idea that you're not successful. Instead of being like, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm just not successful right now, and that's okay, right? And then by letting that be okay, you can actually move forward, or rather transmute your lack of success into something deeper, right? So for me, like, if you told me, like, I'm never going to be anything, like, I'm never going to be successful, right? What I would do now is, it's like, okay, well, fine, I'm not going to be successful. So what's the coolest fucking thing that I could do? Like, successful people are pretty cool, right? Like, they're pretty awesome. They're rich. They got all these different things. How can I be the coolest non-successful person in the world, right? And what would I do, right? And what are all the things that I would go do that would be so freaking cool, right? And again, just bringing it back to all the awesome, cool stuff that you could do with life. And the next thing you know, what happens, right? You probably start eating better, working out, aligning with better people, and the next thing you know, you're actually successful. But it wasn't because you were trying not to be unsuccessful. It was because you actually had something to focus on, right? I think a lot of times for me, all of self-development and my obsession with it came from there's all these things I hate about myself. And anytime there's something you don't like about yourself, you'll find that it's difficult to move forward, and it's because you actually have no forward to go towards. You actually aren't working towards anything when you just hate that you don't have women, or you just hate that you don't have money, or you just hate that you haven't done something. It's only when you actually allow yourself to feel the depression of not having that thing, which comes with time or, dedicated focus, that you're like, wait a minute, like, what's something I actually want? Like, for a long time, I felt horrible about being a virgin, right? I was a virgin for a long time, and I felt bad about it for a while. Going to school with kids, and you'd get teased, right? It's like, hey, like, you still a virgin, right? Shit like that. And it's like shit. Like, I don't want to be a virgin. That sucks. I hate that I'm a virgin. I hate myself for being a virgin. And the problem is, it's like, but like, what do you have to work towards? It's like, well, going to get women. Oh, really? Because later on I found out, like, I don't really, like, enjoy, going after women that much. Like, only sometimes, like, not all the time. Sometimes I'm just working on parts of my life, and I love that. I just love that. I love what I'm doing. Like, right now, I love working on my album so much. And, if you were to tell me, like, like, you're a virgin, you need to not be a virgin, right? I'd be like, oh, fuck, you're right. Like, it's like, no, calm down, right? Just don't take any actions just because you don't want something. Have something that you actually want, that you're inspired to go do, and then, then you'll actually want to go do it, right? Aaron and I have been talking lately about how he's going to help me out with hooking up with my childhood crush. Now, to me, that's something that's a little bit more something I'm interested in doing, right? As far as game goes, I'm like, hell yeah, that sounds like a fun way to learn game, right? I currently don't really go to the gym, but I skateboard every day, right? I sweat my ass off. I learn new tricks, and that's like my way of doing that, an activity, right? And I'm still, releasing endorphins and getting physically strong, but just in my own way, right? Sometimes you just gotta, like, instead of just doing something because you don't want to be something, you need to have a real focus, a real thing that you want, right? It's not enough to just try to get rid of something that you hate about yourself. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of self-development can be, is it can be like, I just don't have a direction, but, like, I feel bad being this other thing. And it's like, well, that's great, but step one isn't actually to try to change that, because you don't actually have a focus. Step one is to find your focus, right? And this all goes back to what I was saying earlier about, having a direction being a very masculine trait, right? If you're a man, you need to have direction, right? You need to have a focus, right? You need to look for those things that feel good, those things that are awesome, right? The word awesome is an awesome word because you can use it to describe basically everything that is worth anything, right? Go find those things in life that are awesome. For me personally, like, I think going to the gym is super awesome. Down the road, I'm definitely going to be going back to the gym, guys. I wasn't always a gym guy, but, like, I think at one point or another I'm going to be for sure. But, like, that'll have been after a lot of, development that I've gone through, right? But, as far as, like, doing the right things, right? Sometimes they're just boring. And you got to spice it up. You got to put your own spin on things. Something I like to talk about is how tradition needs to be flipped on its head. You guys might have heard me mention a little bit before about how I want to take my friends out to a private island, wear pirate hats, and go find fucking buried treasure, right? And that's because I think that's hilarious, right? Because tradition says that if you hang out with your friends, you should go to Applebee's or go to the movies. Tradition says that Christmas should be, you decorate your house with red and green things, and you talk about Santa, and, like, you hang up stockings, and it's like, it can be about that. That's what tradition can be, but tradition is just what's been done over and over but doesn't necessarily have to be what's done in the future, right? And as we are writing the scripts of our lives as men, it's time to flip tradition on its head, right? It's time to have goals that are wacky, have goals that are crazy. I don't think any two people should necessarily have the same two goals. Like, that's why it's kind of weird when people, like, their goals are to go to the gym, or their goals are to go, like, make a lot of money. It's like, do we all have the same goals? Like, no, like, you're an individual, but you don't know how to put your individuality in your goal, right? So personalize your goals. Have your goals be something that speaks more to you, right? And then also that comes with, learning about who you are as a person and getting to know yourself more. So, for me, I mean, I'm somebody who has really learned a lot about himself. So I could tell you a lot about, like, all the cool things that I've done. So like, cool fucking hangouts that I've flipped on their heads. I never will, you'll very rarely catch me at just hanging out at Applebee's with friends or, like, going to the movies, right? I have a friend who's allergic to milk. And I was just like, hey, everybody, like, surprise road trip. We always, my friend who's allergic to milk, I'll just call him Eric. We tease him for not being able to drink milk. Nothing, mean, just sort of like almost in a funny way. Like, oh, there's ice cream over there, Eric. You better not sneeze. Things like that. And, just this one day, it was just like, fuck it, like, surprise road trip. And then where do we go? Like, I just took everybody out to a dairy farm. And we, we're all sampling all the cheeses and milks. And we're laughing at Eric because he can't have any. And, or this other time when, like, again, instead of just hanging out and doing, like, a regular hangout, there's it's a website. It's called bizarrefoods.com. And they have, like, these, like, just edible, like, weird things that you probably shouldn't be eating. But, like, edible bugs, like dead bugs, like, in a bag, but they're, like, seasoned. Like, seasoned crickets and, like, cans of, like, edible scorpions and shit. Just, like, crazy shit. And, so I like, we had this whole, like, dinner, right? Like, we ordered all this, like, crazy food, and then we ate, like, all these weird bugs, and we watched Bear Grylls, right? So we're eating, like, fruits and veggies and mushrooms and bugs, and we're watching Bear Grylls. That's, like, and that's me deciding to put a spin on a hangout that traditionally should be, just, like, smoking weed or, music or video games, right? And, like, this is what I think guys need to do more with their goals, right? Is to really be individualistic about the things that you want, right? Have ways that you personalize the things that you want so that when you finally do get that stuff, it's not just that you're, like, going to the gym or that you're getting money. I think it's very bland. It's very bland. Like, there's ways to personalize your mission so that it's even more motivating, right? I mean, maybe I'm just crazy. Like, for some people, maybe it's just enough to go to the gym and fucking make money. They might be just like, nah, I think I'll just take the money of the girls in the gym, and I don't need to be eating bugs, bro. But, for myself, I mean, I just know there's a lot of guys out there that probably feel the same way, where they're like, you know what, like, I do need to put more of an individualistic spin on my goals in order to get me to move forward, because sometimes the gym just fucking sucks, man. I mean, like, I like the gym, I like working out, I like action, I like movement, but, for whatever reason, I'd rather skate, and, like, inspiration is something to follow, man. Like, there's a reason it's there. I watch a lot of Teal Swan. Maybe I shouldn't, but she's like, inspiration shows that there's, it ensures that universal energy is backing that action, right? It's this idea that, creation energy, universal energy, this energy that creates worlds, is that energy of inspiration. And when you're inspired and you're acting off that energy, you just can do nothing wrong. It's backed by the universe, right? When you feel inspired, that energy is backed by something way more powerful than, someone who's just not acting, someone who's just acting unconsciously. They're just doing something because that's tradition. They're doing something because that's, and look, tradition is good. Like, going to the gym is a healthy thing, right? We shouldn't get rid of that, right? But, like, for some individuals, it is important to, personalize your goals and make things more, flavor the world in your in your specific flavor, in your color, right? Bring the world something new. So yeah, guys, these are all the different things that I think about. I think about some crazy stuff. My brain is always just going, a mile a minute thinking about nut shit. I do inner self dialogue. I'm thinking about fucking rap music and skateboarding and the next crazy thing I'm gonna invite my friends to. You know, I just know that I'm only here for a short period of time, and I want to make it just the best craziest thing that I can, right? And so maybe that's not what everybody needs, but it can be something that inspires guys, right? It can be something where, as an example, take my life as an example of a way that you can expand your own life into something that's better feeling, right? Because I have this sort of belief that the better something feels, the better you're like, let's say you feel really good. Okay, like you're going to take an action and that action feels really good to take. Well, if you just go towards what feels good, like for the most part you're not going to do wrong. I mean, I'm going to be honest, like my life feels so good. My life feels so good. My life might feel too good. My life feels too good to be true sometimes. And there's been a lot of times, what I'm going to say is super controversial. There's been a lot of times where I just felt like eating like some crap. And, I mean, I'm like, well, logically I should like eat like healthy. And I'm like, dude, I'm just going to like celebrate and eat like this like pizza. And honestly, like only you, this is for everybody. Like only you can like decide what things mean. Like whatever you want to believe is basically, whatever serves you, right? That belief that serves you is the thing that you need to be doing as an individual. It doesn't mean that everybody else needs to be doing it, but it's what works for you. But for a long period of time, what worked for me was eating like crazy crappy food, but like enjoying the fuck out of it. I really like should not be as happy as I am for someone who ate the amount of crap that I used to eat. But like again, man, I knew that like because this is going to make me feel as good as it does, because I always know how to enjoy this food and I'm going to, like I knew that was the right direction. And like life just kind of works in mysterious ways. You never really know like where you're going to end up or like how, but like the biggest teaching of all that I got from Teal Swan is that like you just take actions from things that feel good. She's like, you never want to take action when that action feels bad to take, right? She's like, that's how I know I'm not going to do something, is because I just don't take an action. Now you might be thinking, well, what about like, when you got to go to work? What about when you got to go to the gym and like it sucks? Like, and I'm like, you're right, but like that's what makes life fun. Like it makes life fun to sometimes not really know, right? It makes life fun to just be like, all right, like, sometimes I do gotta like just do the hard thing, and I will buckle down and do the hard thing when it shows up. But you want to, life is never gonna be in that way where you just always know the perfect thing to do in every situation, right? But for the most part, you are using your emotional system like a compass, and you're trying to go towards what feels good, because that's that's finding you more universal energy. That's finding you more inspiration, right? The more I do things that are inspiring, the more inspiration I have. So while I may have eaten a lot of junk food in my day, I also have a lot of crazy ideas, right? Inspiring, awesome ideas. And it's because in those moments when I wanted to eat when I was trying to force myself to eat healthy, when I really wanted to eat something, more tasty, I was like, I'm going to do the inspiring thing. And then next thing I know, like I feel really good. Like maybe my stomach doesn't feel really good, but my brain feels really good. My direction in life feels really good. I'm like, I know that this was the right decision for me today. That's all I know. I don't know that this is something everyone should be eating every day. But for me, I was like, this is what works for me today, right? And so, I guess I'll wrap this podcast up with this idea that like, no one truly knows what's best for you except for you, right? It's you have your own, internal compass, because if you didn't exist, then who could really speak for you, right? You exist to speak for you. Like if you weren't alive, then who would be able to have your perspective, right? No one could have had your perspective, and that's why you exist, to tell your story, to tell your perspective. And perspectives are crazy, man. I mean, like, this all comes back to the resistance thing I was talking about in the beginning, where, like, resistance is just this thing where two different sides of you are dueling, They're duking it out. It's like watching two political parties duking it out on TV or something. And, they both have strong opinions. And the question is like, who's right? Who's going to be right in the end? And it's like, it doesn't matter. Because if this didn't exist, there would be no this. There would be no life, right? What creates life is these dueling polarities. And then you as an individual living with your perspective, you just have certain polarities that you've attached to, and now that's your perspective, and you're going to bring that unique perspective into the world, and everyone's going to like it. Well, not everyone, but like people are going to like it because it's unique, right? Definitely not everyone's going to like it, but your perspective is yours, and you get to have that. And when you have crazy dreams, you get to decide what that means, what those dreams meant. If you feel like fucking going to the gym or eating fucking bad food and you have to decide between the two, again, it's your choice, right? And I definitely wouldn't say go overboard with that, but definitely like figure out what's inspiring to you and then go do that. Go do whatever makes you feel something, right? The day we all stop feeling is the day we really have lost ourselves, right? So I'm done talking. I'm done with this 50th episode of the Evolution Daily Podcast. I hope you enjoyed my crazy brain, me talking about crazy shit for the past, holy shit, almost an hour now. Guys, the Evolution Daily Podcast is going to get bigger. It's going to get better. Evolution Daily is going to get bigger. It's going to get better. We're doing crazy shit. It's so awesome. I want you guys to do, all the great stuff in your life that you want to do. I hope you guys think differently about shit. God knows the world needs it. Take whatever good emotions that you have right now and funnel that into something great now that you're finished with this podcast. Don't just sit around your ass. Go live life. Figure out why the fuck you're here and enjoy the limited time you have on this planet. I wish you all the best. Peace.